right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Creativity Stage. I'm your host, Mace Al-Ansari. How's everyone doing? Are we okay? Third day, how are we doing? Good? Amazing. Well, listen, we had Treasury Wines talk about their sangria, the Daughters of Wine. We've just had Lee talk about hand-painted mural and how it's so much more emotional. And now I'd like to introduce John Sills from the foundation talking about customer experience strategy and how to make sure that you are engaging with your consumers properly. So please welcome to the stage, John.
Thank you very much. Okay, morning everyone, especially the people just behind the pillar that can't quite see me. My name's John, Managing Director at the Foundation. I also wrote this book called The Human Experience, but I've only got 20 minutes with you, so I'm not really going to talk about me. This is my nan, Reenie Bruff. This is a picture of her on her 100th birthday, actually. Greatest human that ever lived. And she lived in London, and she used to collect old newspapers. And I always loved looking at the old newspapers, not just for how the news was presented, but also for how the adverts were presented. And I've always liked this advert, which was for a shop just up the road in Islington. And I like the aim. We have all these grand purposes now of organisations, but the aim was just to have a satisfied customer. And it's so simple, really. That's really what organisations exist for, because revenue only really comes from earning customer decisions in your favour. It doesn't come from your products and services alone. You only get revenue from people choosing to buy from you. But it feels like organisations have forgotten that recently. 85% of people believe that organisations feel impersonal and have lost that human touch. 83% believe that organisations take their customers for granted. 81% believe organisations are more interested in cutting costs than they are in creating a really great experience. These are really quite damning statistics, unless you've just written a book and then they're brilliant for marketing it, to be honest. But this is the reality now, is that being a customer has just become really hard work. Like, it seems to become really hard to be a customer in almost any organisation now. You have long wait times. Someone worked out that with HMRC, taxpayers spent about 800 years on hold to HMRC over the past year, which roughly takes you back to the Middle Ages, which I think is probably where HMRC's customer experience is at the moment. You get these chatbots that get in the way and try and stop us speaking to organisations. This was me trying to get a refund from EasyJet. It says, hello, my flight was cancelled a couple of weeks ago. It says refund being processed. When can I expect the refund? And the chatbot said, I don't understand what that means. Try telling me a different way. So I said, when should I expect my refund? And it said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Try telling me in a different way. So I just said, refund. And it said, I'm sorry, I'm still learning, and I don't know what you want there. Please try again soon. So that was useful. I've just got to get my refund when the chatbots become good enough to help. You get kind of all these notifications come through, but without thinking about how you might feel as a customer receiving them. I was running a workshop up in Newcastle recently, had to be there for 1 o'clock, getting the train in the morning. I woke up and I had an email and a notification on my phone, big disruption alert in a big red box. Not what you want to see when you've got to get up to Newcastle in a few hours' time. So I clicked the link and I opened the email and I went to the website to find out what the disruption was. And it was that the escalators were out of order on platforms 6, 7, and 8 of King's Cross Station. Absolutely important to some people, but I think this was the main message that could have been useful that they could put across to me there, that the train was on time, there was just something that might get in the way of me getting on it. We get these inflated expectations now. When I was up in Newcastle, I actually was just down the road in Sunderland, I spent the whole day in this workshop room staring out the window, ironically, to my previous speaker, to a painted mural saying Mackems, which is the nickname for people from Sunderland, your nearest Uber driver is 6 minutes away. And so when the workshop finished, I opened Uber and I ordered myself an Uber to take me back to Newcastle, and it was going to come and pick me up in 9 minutes, which I quite like. The entire day staring at this false expectation being set to me. As customers now, we have to put in a lot of effort. This is United Utilities, one of the water companies in the northwest of England. They got this tweet and it says, good morning, United Utilities. There appears to be a burst at 7 Acres Delft. Happy Monday. And they got a reply, said, good morning. You can check our website to see if we're aware of this. If not, you can report the issue so we can arrange an engineer to attend. Putting all of that effort back onto the customer. And then you get this complex language organizations use. This is a text message from my bank. You're using your arranged overdraft but have not been charged arranged interest as your arranged borrowing is within the interest-free amount. I worked for HSBC for 12 years. I used to look after customer experience globally for them. I've got no idea what that means. I think it means I've spent too much money because they sent it in December. And then finally, you get these big restrictions, frustrating restrictions on accessing your service now. This was a brilliant TikTok from a guy called Benedict Townsend, and it was a 3-minute rant just saying, I don't have another two-factor authentication left in me. Like, I just can't keep getting these text messages helping me log on. Who is it that's trying to hack my Sainsbury's account that I need to keep doing this? Now, the result is you end up with a big disconnect between the brand promise and the reality that customers experience. This is a sandwich packet someone sent me. Listen up, you shouldn't have to settle for the same old, not when you're hungry. Isn't that why you pick this up? Because you're done with the daily disappointment and ready to take a bite of something more satisfying. And this is the sandwich that was inside. The plainest looking sandwich you could ever imagine. The copywriters earned their money there. Now, what would you do in this situation? If you were a customer, actually think about it. If you were just in a relationship and your partner didn't answer your calls, wouldn't let you message them, didn't keep their promises, made you organize anything you did together, spoke in words you couldn't understand, blamed you when things went wrong, and was much nicer to new people they met than they were to you. Would you stay with them? I don't think you would probably stay with them. I think you'd probably break up with them pretty quickly. But instead, we believe in this myth of customer loyalty. We believe that customers are loyal, and of course, they're not. Let's just have a show of hands. Put your hands up if you've got one of these coffee shop discount loyalty cards or hotel cards. Just keep your hand up. Most of you. Keep your hand up if you've got more than one. Okay, it's most of you. Now, let's just do a test, because I think we're more loyal to people than we are to companies. Put your hands up if you've got a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Keep your hand up if you've got more than one. Okay, no, okay. Couple, so they're the people to look out for later. We're much more loyal to humans than we are, really, to organizations. It doesn't really exist. Now, why is this happening? Because we all know that a better customer experience is good. Well, it happens because we all see the world from the inside out. When we're in organizations, we're all closer to our colleagues and our business and our regulators than we really are to our customers. We sometimes describe it as this wedge shape. All of this data we've got coming into organizations is what we would call as being at the thin end of the wedge. If you imagine your customer's life as this wedge shape, at one end you've got all the things that really matter to them. Their real world, this is the one to take the photo of, their real world, real life, hopes, dreams, ambitions, things they're trying to achieve, the things that get in the way, the services they use to help, and right at the very thin end of the wedge, you and your organization. A very small part in their overall consciousness. But yet, all of this data that comes in, at the thin end of the wedge. What do you think about us? What do you think about our product? What do you think about our service? Would you recommend us? It convinces leaders they're close to what matters to customers, but they're only really close to customers' opinions of their business. You know the kind of feedback I mean. You get the point. While I was putting this together, Microsoft popped up and with this feedback survey. How likely are you to recommend the web version of PowerPoint to others if asked? And I think the words "if asked" they're doing a lot of carrying there, aren't they? Carrying a lot of heavy weight. I'm not sure that's going to be part of the conversation. The Excitable, my home insurance company, saying, don't miss the chance to tell us how we did. As if I'm going to get, FOMO for not giving them feedback. And then someone sent me this one a couple of weeks ago, just filling you with guilt if you don't give them feedback. If you've got a spare 10 seconds, we donate to support life-saving care for children for every customer that leaves us feedback. Or in other words, if you don't leave us feedback, you're killing a kid. So, your decision. You make the decision. I did like this one, though, at a pub I went to where they gave you a free baby Guinness for every 5-star review you gave. So, I left a lot of reviews that night. Now, part of the challenge with this is that leaders are no longer connecting with customers because they believe this data is doing it for them. 53% of business leaders aren't customers of their own organizations. 56% of business leaders haven't spoken to a customer in over a month. And only 1 in 10 believe that the surveys they're getting are helping them really, truly learn what understands to their customers. Now, this is exacerbated by the way this data comes in. We only tend to compare against competitors, so we only ever get to the level of being kind of fine, fast follower, rather than really trying to trailblaze on customers' behalves. The data is presented like this, PowerPoints, PDFs, graphs, rather than getting out there, having that visceral connection, the reality of what's really happening for customers. And everything is kind of surrounded by averages. Everything is averaged out. A great economist used to say that if your head's in the oven and your feet are in the freezer, on average, you're the right temperature, but you're probably dead. And I quite like that, because I think this is the way we look at this data that comes in about customers. It averages out, and we miss the extremes. We miss understanding what really matters. So as a result, when we're trying to design great experiences for customers, we rely on pretty boring frameworks. And those frameworks generalize everything out, try to convince us there's one experience that's true for everyone, and it's really just not the case. So what do we do about it? That's the negative half done of all the stuff that's wrong. What do we do about it? Well, you've got to get out. You've got to get out and see the world from the outside in. You've got to escape the gravity that your organization has that pulls you inside out. And that means you generally have to step outside, go and see people, go and visit people, actually spend real time with them. That will help you start to create meaningfully distinct experiences. You know, what is the meaningfully distinct experience you're going to create as your organization? Based on what matters to your customers, your brand strengths, where you want to be different from competitors, and where the world is going in the future. And if you do that, you can start to find experiences that not just reduce dismay, but also really create delight and help to differentiate you too. Too often when it comes to customer experience, organizations are just focusing on fixing pain points, fixing the stuff that's going wrong, rather than really trailblazing and really pushing ahead. So how do you do that practically? Well, the first thing you do is you understand what really matters to your customers, getting up to the thick end of the wedge of the experience. A few years ago, I was working with a company, a food manufacturer, and we were doing some work with them on ready meals. And I got to spend time with people in their homes, making food with them, having dinner with them, seeing how they cooked, and then go shopping with them afterwards. And this one lady was mid-40s, yoga instructor, body as a temple, super fit and healthy, said she would never buy any kind of ready-made food or convenience food, cooked everything from scratch. So that made sense in her house, loads of ingredients, loads of recipe books. Went shopping with her, halfway down the aisles, she picks up a ready chopped red onion, throws that into the basket. Then she gets a ready-made mashed potato, throws that in as well. I was like, well, hang on, how does that match up with what you just told me? I thought you wouldn't buy those kind of things. And she said, well, I haven't got time to peel and chop vegetables. That's just a waste of time. Anyway, we get to the end of the supermarket where all the good stuff is, the confectionery and the alcohol. And again, I think we're going to fly past here, given how healthy she is. But no, she swept in armfuls of chocolate and Prosecco, like supermarket sweep, for any of you that can remember that, just like overflowing out of the basket. And I said, well, how does that match up with your lifestyle? And she said, oh, that's for girls' night on a Friday night. That doesn't count. And what I love about that is that she wasn't telling me a lie when she was telling me about herself. We all just have these versions of ourselves we believe to be true, and then occasionally we take a break from them. And when we take a break from them, that's not us being us. So you're never going to tell anyone about that. You can only get that by observing, by immersion, by really understanding people's behavior. If you do that, you start to spot all kinds of behaviors. You spot the desire paths, the cow paths, they're called. So when you've designed a brilliant journey and a brilliant experience, but customers have decided to design their own one around the outside. You spot how people break the rules. These three guys, every morning at my train station, just stand in front of the yellow line, and they don't really care what anyone else says or what the announcement says. They're going to do that. This person just choosing to park wherever they want, really, taking up 4 parking spaces in one, which is quite impressive. You get to see slightly odd behavior, and you get to see those contradictions. This is a very grainy photo. I took it quite a few years ago. This is a guy that was sat on my train, business guy, suit, tie. He spent the whole journey with this slide open that said executive summary on it, and he spent the entire journey playing Candy Crush instead. And I reckon when he got into the office, he told everyone, yeah, I've been working really hard this morning, been working on that slide all morning. And then you see this kind of slightly odd behavior, as I say, during COVID, in Pisa airport, they had to put up signs asking people to not hold their passports in their mouths because they were worried it was going to kind of pass over COVID. And we've all done it in the airport, backpack on, you're walking up to the passport thing, you hold something in your mouth while you're getting everything out. No one's going to tell you they do that because no one knows they do it. It's only by really understanding it and observing it you see that. So you need to really deeply understand what matters to your customers, not just their views on what you produce. And then you need to go out and find new and better ways of doing this. And a big part of this is understanding the future and understanding the past. So we call those inevitable improvements. What are the things that are absolutely going to change in your industry? And the only decision is, do you do it now or do you do it later when everyone else does it? And what are the things, I've stolen this from a guy called Morgan Housel, what are the permanent assumptions, the things that are always going to be true for your customers in your industry? Because they're your rocks to build around. Because a lot of things do change. This is my dad in 1947, going to watch Arsenal against Chelsea. And they used to have photographers on the side of the road, and they would take a photo of you as you went past, give you a card, and you go into their photography shop a few days later and pick up your photo. It's not quite the same when we do that now. Lots of things do change. Luckily, Yorkie, advertising on It's Not For Girls. Anyone vaguely remember when that was? When do you think that stopped? When do you think that stopped running? 2005, etc. 2011, which, I mean, it's a little bit quite far away now, but that still feels unbelievably recent to have an organization promoting on not being for girls. Things change that we might not think change. Nokia, 1 billion customers. Can anyone catch the cell phone king? Yep. How Yahoo won the search wars? Did it. Will MySpace ever lose its monopoly? Yeah. AOL's instant messaging monopoly. These things we think aren't going to change do change. And that's true for how we align ourselves with brands as well. A few years ago, people bought Teslas because they wanted to appear cool and innovative and environmental. And now people are making a load of money selling bumper stickers to stick on those Teslas saying, I bought this before Elon went crazy. And some things stay the same. So you need to look at the things that are going to change, but you need to look at the things that stay the same. As I said, this is my dad, Arsenal, Chelsea, 1947. This is me and my mate, Arsenal, Chelsea, 2025. I think we probably lost both games, so that was quite annoying. That didn't change. But the things we do for entertainment and emotion, they stay exactly the same. Water filters, water pumps. This was John Snow's water pump in Soho a couple of 100 years ago, and now we're still wandering around filling up our bottles with water from the streets, admittedly with slightly less cholera in, so that's good. We have made them quite complicated, though. I actually much prefer the simpler version to what we have now. We've always drunk wine. This is the oldest known example of wine in Georgia, 6,000 BC, 8,000 years ago. Now we all sit on the train ignoring each other on our phones. We used to sit on the train ignoring each other, reading our newspapers as well. So you've got to look at these things that don't change. And maybe it's not the phones, maybe it's just how we socially connect in Great Britain. If you do that, then you have some pretty fantastic experiences that get designed. Who gives a crap? Toilet roll, the most boring product you could ever imagine. They make it interesting, exciting, really brightly colored wrappers on their toilet rolls. Your 3 bright red ones are your emergency toilet rolls, so you know if you're opening them, you're going to need to go and buy more toilet rolls soon. Brilliant for customers. City Mapper, some of you might recognize this one. This is the normal City Mapper screen. Some of you might recognize this. If not, this is how the screen changes after midnight. Because City Mapper know that if you're using City Mapper in London after midnight, you might need a bigger button to try and press to get yourself home. But City Mapper also know that it's not all about getting home fast, it's about getting home safe, which is why one of the options on City Mapper is to get the main roads, the best lit route home, rather than the fastest route home. That's a brilliant customer insight into what matters to people late at night traveling through cities. Octopus Energy, if you phone them up, the song that plays is a song that was #1 when you were 14 years of age, because they know that people hate generic hold music, and they thought, well, that's quite an interesting thing to do. People will recognize it, hopefully like it. Mine is The Fugees' Killing Me Softly. If I'd been born a year later, it would have been Spice Girls' Wannabe. So secretly gutted about that. Apple, I love this, Apple's recent update, where you get the little motion sickness dots that come on when you're in the car. If you haven't turned that on, turn it on. It's a brilliant feature. It means you can be on your phone all the time without needing to feel sick about it. This is Dash, who prioritize your order if they notice you're ordering from a hospital. So they prioritize it and send a nice little get well message or hope everything's okay message. This football ground in Scotland that's put a play park next to the pitch so that your kids can be entertained and not annoy you when it gets to the second half and they get a bit bored. Monzo know that there's a big problem in banking with fraud and someone phones you up, pretends to be your bank. So if someone phones you up from Monzo, you open the app, it tells you whether or not you're currently speaking to someone from Monzo. If you're not, you know to hang up. If you are, then you know they give you a little photo of who you're talking to, just humanizing that experience. And finally, this straightforward language, Hampton's estate agency, changing their for sale and sold signs to buy me and I'm taken. Humanizing that experience, making it stand out from the competition and it doesn't cost any more money than it cost to create that sign in the first place. So I'm going to end where I started with my nan, Reenie Brough, 100 years old, as I say, and back in the 60s, she joined the London Telephone Exchange. And on the day she joined, the 9th of June 1961, she got this letter from the managing director of the Telephone Exchange. And I've always loved this paragraph in the middle. It says, "You travel by train or bus, you're served in shops, so you know the difference between service that's given cheerfully and service that seems grudging and ungracious." And I think if that was written now by a Silicon Valley Bank CEO, or a Silicon Valley CEO, then they would tell you, and that would be all over the internet as a viral hit for what an amazing bit of leadership, what an amazing message to give out to your team. But it really is that simple. We're all customers every single day. We know the difference between a great trailblazing experience and something that's boring and dull. And when we get in organizations, we become inside out and we lose that kind of thinking, we lose that immersion with the real connection of what really matters to people. So that's my message to you. Get out there, spend time with real people, create that meaningfully distinct experience, and if you do that, then you'll be sure to create great experiences for your customers and have a more successful business as a result. Thank you for listening. I'm John from the Foundation. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and Substack and everything else, but I really hope you've enjoyed MadFest, and I really appreciate you coming along to the talk. Thank you.